I don't know if I can handle crying through the whole Japan trip. I can exploit her, but we haven't really made a huge amount of progress. I am loving it so much here. If you can only have one wish, what would it be? And what are you willing to do to get it? Hello and welcome to another Reading Around the World vlog. My name is Steph and this video is part of a series where I kind of combine two of my favorite things, that's reading and travel, and I just document my experiences. We have an overnight flight to Tokyo and I am bringing along the castle, the lonely castle in the mirror. So I'm really excited. I have always wanted to go to Japan and this has been on my TBR for ages. It's set in Tokyo and it's like a portal fantasy, I believe. Technically it's YA, but I hear that at the end it gets quite dark. So I don't really know a whole lot about it, but we're gonna go for 10 days and I will probably go through this in like 6 days, 5 or 6, because I want to spend most of my time getting to know Japan, experiencing it for the first time, eating all of the food. Also am getting a few like ebooks from my library and audiobooks to check out. And I haven't decided yet which one I'm gonna go for. So option number 1 for my second book is Sweet Bean Paste. This is a contemporary fiction and it's supposed to be kind of a bit more heartwarming and I think it's set during the spring. And then my other option is The Traveling Cat Chronicles. But my only reservation about this is that I have a cat and I'm afraid that the cat, who is, I believe, the main narrator on this sort of road trip novel, is going to die. I don't know. I just hear that's very sad and I don't think that I can handle. So I'm not sure yet. Maybe I'll end up picking up something completely different at a bookstore while we're there. Otherwise, I'm just packing right now. It's the beginning of October, so I was kind of hoping that we might see some pretty fall leaves or something. But when I look at the climate, it is like 25 degrees still. We'll go hunting for fall leaves. I don't know whether or not we'll find any. Okay, so we just checked into our really tiny hotel and I thought that I would show you how small it is. So this is it. I thought while my husband is in the shower, I would just give you a little update. My first impressions of Japan and my first impressions of like the first 40 or 50 pages of Lonely Castle in the Mirror. So Japan, I've been to the Narita airport multiple times and that was actually the place that my husband and I got engaged. So we arrived at like 6 a.m. in the morning and took a bus into Tokyo, dropped off our luggage and just walked around Shinjuku area. We went to a really nice art store. I am loving it so much here. It's just very leafy and green and cosmopolitan. I also have to say, when people from Japan come to like anywhere else in the world, they must think that we're savages because the toilets here, they're incredible. The bidets, they like play music, you can control water pressure, water temperature, just to watch your butt. It's amazing and I love it and I'm importing one for sure. So first impressions of Japan are amazing. We just checked into our hotel. As you can probably see, I just had a shower and I think we're gonna take a little nap and then find somewhere nice to eat tonight. As far as my thoughts of Lonely Castle in the Mirror are going, we follow Kokoro, who is a girl who's around like 13, I think. She's just entered like junior high age, and she really struggles a lot with anxiety and being bullied and just finding a way to fit in at school. And so she basically decides that she's not going to go to school anymore, and her mom is really sympathetic to some of the emotional challenges that she's having at this age and doesn't seem to enforce that. She tries to get her to go to a special school, but Kokoro doesn't really want to. And so when we meet her, she has pretty much decided that she's not going to school because she complains of these stomach aches. And she just was like, Mom, I have a stomach ache, I can't go. Hi, Steph from the future here. I just wanted to note really quickly that a lot of the withdrawal that is happening in this book with Kokoro and the other students seems to be a bit of an indirect or direct nod to hikikomori, which is actually a culture-bound syndrome from Japan, where the individual might be very reclusive for 6 months plus, usually just staying in one room. They're not going to school, they're not doing anything social at all. It tends to be comorbid with a lot of other disorders like depression and anxiety. And according to the Japan Times, there is 1.5 million hikikomoris living in Japan at the moment. So her mom just goes off to work and like her parents leave her at home all day. And one of these days that she's home alone, she notices that the mirror in her room is glowing. And so of course she gets up and she like puts her hand on it and gets sucked into the mirror, into this secondary world where there's this castle and this little girl who's wearing a wolf mask. And this little girl insists on being called the Wolf Queen. She is like, hey, you have to stay, you have an opportunity, there's like, you could be granted a wish. But Kokoro is, when she realizes that this is not a dream, she freaks out and just bolts for it and runs back through the like corresponding mirror and back to her room. But the Wolf Queen is like, you'll be back. I know you'll be back tomorrow. And lo and behold, Kokoro does go back tomorrow. And so when she does, she meets 6 other children who are obviously in similar positions. They aren't going to school. And the Wolf Queen explains that there is a key, like a hidden key, in one of the rooms of the castle that they have to locate. And that key is going to open a room which basically unleashes the wish. So one of them is going to get the wish of their heart answered. And that just depends on who's able to find the key. And so she gives them 1 year and basically 9 to 5 that for them to like enter this portal and come and find the key. I don't have a whole lot to say in terms of prose. It's pretty functional, I guess. Like there's nothing bad about it. It doesn't, it's not outstanding, but I'm definitely enjoying it. It flows nicely. The story progressed like really quickly. I think she first went through the mirror on like page 21. I'm definitely curious. There's a lot of allusions to Western fairy tales, which I find quite interesting. It has a real, I want to say Peter Pan vibe to it almost. And, where there's this like other girl who's wearing a wolf mask and is like the queen of this group of like children who feel unloved and unwanted. I can definitely see how some readers say that it could get dark in the end, or that it does get dark towards the end, because if you can only have one wish, what would it be, and what are you willing to get it? So good. You probably just saw it was raining like crazy yesterday. This morning when it was bright out, we just went directly and did like all of the outdoor things. And that kind of had me thinking a little bit about our Wolf Queen. In this book, I'm about 40% of the way through. Yeah, around 40% of the way through. When our main character first describes the Wolf Queen, she sort of observes how she is wearing a wolf mask like the ones you see in a temple. And so I was like keeping an eye out for wolf masks. I don't know for sure what kind of temple or shrine would have that, because I didn't see any. But I did do some reading about the Kitsune, who is a fox. I don't know if she would really be called a deity, but a character or figure in folklore that is sort of a fox that can turn into a woman, and the masks look fairly similar, like not quite, because there's a lot of like red features as well. I'll try and put a picture up. This kind of fox, it sometimes is good intentions to humans, sometimes they're a little tricksy, sometimes they will transform into a woman and like marry somebody, or be deceiving, and about like matriarchal Asia. So I don't know if the wolf is separate from this or if it's just inspired kind of by the kitsune, or if there's like a translation thing. She definitely howls though. She howls like a wolf because the kitsune is like kind of seen as like a guardian or a spirit or character that would stand on the threshold in that liminal space of different worlds. So I'm really curious what kind of role this fox queen is going to end up playing, because so far we actually haven't seen her a whole lot. It's been a lot of Kokoro just entering the castle and getting to know these other kids and having sort of challenging and sometimes really positive interactions with these other kids. And there's sort of a bit of a found family dynamic, being around one another a lot and building like alliances and friendships and uncomfortable relationships with one another. No, and I find it kind of funny and sad that we're seeing a little bit more about why Kokoro didn't want to go to school, and that how kids do the same mean stuff all around the world, it seems. But I'm curious when the tension is going to ramp up, because I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm having a lot of fun, but I don't feel the tension as much. But we haven't really made a huge amount of progress in finding the key. In other news, after the shrines today, we walked around Yogyakarta, which is a older part of Tokyo. It's a very local feeling part of Tokyo. We were there for two reasons. The first was that there is this one alley which is known to be the location of the geisha headquarters. Because this area isn't super touristy, I thought that maybe that would be kind of an interesting place to hopefully respectfully catch a glimpse of a geisha. And we did. I was so excited. It was literally an alleyway. There seemed like there was a lot of homes and stuff, and so I felt kind of weird filming there. But we did see a geisha, and I didn't take any pictures and I didn't take any film because I'm not, first of all, sure if that's legal, and she was busy and working and want to be an obnoxious tourist. So we saw her. She was wearing a beautiful pink kimono and looked like she was in a hurry. So and the second reason that we were there is that we wanted to get some of the Japanese confectionery, like traditional Japanese sweet. We went into one shop that sold a lot of tea, so we got some sencha. We got a bunch of them for our friends and relatives, and then some matcha.
There's that normal eat.
Oh no, it's a scam. The highlight is a private onsen. Steamy. And our shower. I finished Lonely Castle in the Mirror. Yeah, an unexpected twist, and the mystery kind of becomes more prominent. Who is this wolf queen, and what is she doing? Why does she exist? And what is this castle? What is it for? Why are they actually there? And how did they get selected? Honestly, I haven't read such an emotional book for so long. The first part is a little slower, and it does end up becoming quite important, but it definitely takes a little while to fully develop. So if you like more character-driven books, this is probably really a nice one for you. I mean, a thought on the writing. The writing is not immature, but you know, you can tell that it's YA. But just because of the themes in this book, I think that it would probably appeal to like anybody. Cried I've cried so much. And I'm not a crier. I do not cry during books. I got a headache from trying not to cry, so I could just finish it. But those last few pages are just a gut punch, like so sad and so heartwarming. I kind of understand more why people would want to read a sad book, because there is an element of like satisfaction that came from it. So I still have about 4 days left for this trip, and we are looking at a pretty long train ride, as in like less than 2 hours. But I have two different options. So I have Sweet Bean Paste, a bit of a sad, heartwarming kind of book again, and I don't know if I can handle crying through the whole Japan trip. So we're gonna go have our breakfast that is gonna be served in a few minutes downstairs. I think it's really like cloudless, beautiful, perfect day outside, and yesterday it was too cloudy to see Mount Fuji, so I think we're gonna go on the cable car and hopefully spot a famous mountain. This is mackerel, she said. The egg, radish, like a miso sauce, octopus. What was this one? I don't know what that one is. Some soybean stuff, a pork thing, and then like a salad, rice, and soup, and gravy. Granted, you'll recover, da 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 da. Marriage and employment are both well. That's good for us. Hello, good morning. So it's our last day in Tokyo, and today we're going to be going to an area called Kawagoe. They have like a festival that's yearly or something, and they have like some interesting floats. So we're going to go do that and just check some of that out. It's about an hour and a half out of Tokyo, which means that I'm going to be able to have a little bit of time to keep reading Sweet Bean Paste, which I am totally loving right now. So this book follows an ex-criminal con guy who is now trying to sort of turn his life around, and he makes and sells dorayaki, which I tried some last night. It's really nice. It's basically like a pancake with some sweet bean paste in it, and he is trying to hire an assistant or somebody of some kind, and there's this much older woman who comes along and applies for the job, and she has something like strange with her hands, and he pretty much is like, hey, I can exploit her and make money off of this little old woman who's been making sweet bean paste longer than I've been actually alive. Because right now they just use store-bought. Of course, he's starting to build a better relationship with her and getting to know her a little bit. And I'm just quite curious because there is a big mystery around her hands. And hopefully you can hear me, but it seems like she has Hansen's disease or leprosy or something that I think is going to have quite a lot of stigma. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The writing is very easy to read. It's a very fun story, and the perspective of this character, I like that he's a little shady and like kind of selfish, and I'm really interested to get to know them both a little bit more. I'm on my way to Starbucks. My husband is still in bed, so hence the wet hair. And I will check in later, probably when I finish the book. So I'm back home, as you can probably see, and I finished Sweet Bean Paste, and I just wanted to wrap up with some of my closing thoughts on it and about the trip in general. Sweet Bean Paste is actually closely following a character with Hansen's disease, or leprosy. That was really interesting to me because I didn't know a whole lot about that and how attitudes and prejudices have changed towards it in the last few decades. Because people who were living with leprosy in Japan were required to live in isolation even long after they had been cured for the disease. So a lot of them could live in sometimes complete isolation for their entire lives. So that character is Tokwe, and when she comes to Centauro basically looking for a job, it's like looking for opportunity to experience life in some ways for the first time. Centauro is a really interesting character. That's like our main character, whose perspective we stay in. And he's like sort of the ex-con guy. But he's really interesting because he has a lot of dimensionality. He has this sort of edgy ex-con past and things that are still kind of, not necessarily haunting him, but he's still feeling the effects of some of the decisions that he made when he was young. But he's also an extremely empathetic character. Like, he has empathy for a lot of the people who he was sort of involved in criminal activity with, and for Tokwe as well. So it's really hard for him to turn her away, even when we kind of hit, I think, like the main conflict of the book, where the owner of the Sweet Bean Paste shop is asking him to fire Tokwe because she knows that when clients see that there's somebody with leprosy or who had previously had leprosy, who bears like the scars of it, is working in the shop, that's going to impact business. And so that kind of triggers like the main conflict of the book, and conflict within Centauro is like, what do? I really like this woman as a person, but I also recognize that this is threatening my livelihood and my future. There's also like a schoolgirl who kind of comes a part of the plot later on, and it was just a really heartwarming story, kind of a thought-provoking story about like, what's the point of living if you're not contributing to society, I think was like take-home message or question, at least. It was such a different book from what I would normally pick up and what I have been reading lately, which has been like a lot of horror, and so was Lonely Castle in the Mirror. And I just really liked having that experience of reading something that was a little bit different. I really enjoyed that because a lot of the themes and topics that these books were reflecting on were issues that were universal and that can kind of speak to anybody, I think, that a lot of people can identify with. So yeah, I had a great trip. I had a great time reading these two books, and I hope if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed the vlog.